That's fine. Perfect.
Okay, great.
Okay, so I mean, just to make, to signal very clear to all our students that we really appreciate time of everybody. Okay, I will address in Portuguese. Okay, guys, from Italy. Me, and then I will be followed by Professor João César in Portuguese as well. And then after this, I'll just signal in English that you guys can start. Okay? So it's gonna be very quickly. Bom, ok, bom dia a todos e a todas. É um grande prazer tê-los aqui nesse seminário. Eu vou ser bastante breve, 2 minutos, apenas colocando o que vai acontecer. Isso é um seminário especial que nós temos aí com os professores Ennio Bilancini, Francesco Certi e Giorgio Gnecco, tá certo? Eles são professores italianos do curso do MIT, a Escola de Estudos Avançados de Lucca, da Itália, e eles vão trazer para a gente, vão discutir o doutorado, que é relativamente novo, é um doutorado que foi cristalizado nos últimos anos, apesar de que eles trabalham há muito tempo, eles têm muita experiência com essa área, e eles realmente desenvolveram um doutorado bastante interdisciplinar. De uma certa maneira, isso é bem novo, é bem bem-vindo para a gente aqui no Brasil, né? Porque eles conseguiram fazer um mix de interdisciplinaridade. Eu já tenho conversado com eles, eu tenho olhado, eles conseguem fazer uma boa mistura de comportamental, economia, engenharia, big data, computação, psicologia. Então, isso é muito interessante no mundo atual, ter um Ph.D. totalmente, né, desde o início, interdisciplinar. Então, eu achei bastante interessante, os convidei, eles vão falar sobre o programa deles e vão, evidentemente, também sinalizar como é que esse programa poderia ser interessante para os nossos alunos e alunas aqui do Brasil. Eles estão muito interessados em captar alunos e alunas brasileiras, e eles têm todo um processo, né, competitivo de alocação do funding das bolsas dele, tá certo? Para isso. Então, vamos prestar muita atenção, nossos alunos e alunas. Nós temos aqui alunos e alunas de todo o Brasil, tá? Temos profissionais também, ex-alunos, alunos não só de doutorado, como de mestrado, como de graduação. Então, espero que vocês aproveitem essa oportunidade. Gostaria de ressaltar que isso é um seminário totalmente apoiado, né, e organizado pelo Colégio de Estudos Avançados da UFC. Ele também tem o apoio do Programa de Pós-graduação em Engenharia de Teleinformática da UFC e também do Programa de Pós-graduação em Economia da UFC, a qual eu pertenço. Eu sou o diretor do Colégio de Estudos Avançados. Aqui eu já agradeço antecipadamente ao pessoal, aos professores italianos, ao Ennio, ao Francesco e ao Giorgio. Agradeço também o apoio dado pelo professor João César, que vai falar rapidamente agora, e agradeço também o apoio do Yuri, que é o coordenador da pós-graduação em Engenharia de Telecomunicações da UFC, e ao professor Alberto Tativa, que é o coordenador da pós-graduação em Economia da UFC. Então, é isso, vamos prestar muita atenção e vamos realmente dar valor a programas como esse, italianos, que são excelentes oportunidades de estudantes brasileiros irem e conseguirem não só um mestrado, como um doutorado de classe mundial, né, estudando numa instituição extremamente, né, bem localizada, um programa muito bem feito, tá certo? E um programa que realmente quer receber alunos brasileiros. Obrigado, eu vou passar agora a palavra para o professor João César, que vai aí fazer um briefing aí de 2 minutos. Logo em seguida, João, por favor, passa a palavra para mim e eu starto a apresentação do pessoal italiano. Obrigado. Pois não, João?
Ok, bom dia, boa tarde a todos e a todas. É um prazer estar aqui com todos. E dou as boas-vindas a quem está presente, na expectativa de que possamos aproveitar essa oportunidade para nos integrar mais ainda com a escola italiana. Sou diretor, né, meu nome é João César Mota, sou diretor da Escola Integrada de Desenvolvimento e Inovação Acadêmica da Universidade Federal do Ceará, a qual reúne alguns órgãos, dentre eles o Colégio de Estudos Avançados, dirigido pelo professor José Raimundo. Nosso papel aqui é de permitir, favorecer e buscar a integração entre as escolas. Então, estamos muito atentos e contentes por permitir também estarmos aqui reunidos hoje, no sentido de favorecer essa integração com a escola italiana. E, desde já, faço aqui o convite aos colegas italianos para nos visitarem presencialmente, não é? E, como consequência dessa iniciativa que está se fazendo agora, não é? Dessa apresentação para os bolsistas potenciais que temos aqui no Brasil, e, da mesma forma, estarmos aqui à disposição para receber os alunos italianos, né, que possam vir para estar conosco dentro do Colégio de Estudos Avançados. Como dito pelo professor José Raimundo, nós aqui realizamos integração, seja através da interdisciplinaridade, como também pela transdisciplinaridade em problemas complexos, não é? Observando mérito, internacionalização, entre outros aspectos de estudos avançados. Gostaria, então, de finalizar dizendo que estamos prontos para recebê-los oportunamente e também darmos a sequência ao memorando de entendimento que está sendo estabelecido entre nossas instituições muito brevemente, ok? Muito obrigado a todos vocês, estaremos acompanhando aqui, eu e o professor Zusa, tanto quanto os demais, e devolvo a palavra ao professor Zé Raimundo. É um prazer. Então, tchau, tchau.
Ok, obrigado, João César. Então, pessoal, quando eles começarem, vamos desligar as câmeras e o microfone, tá certo? E agora eu vou voltar para o inglês para que a gente starte todo o processo. Vai ser 1 hora de seminário e depois vocês vão ter a oportunidade de fazer perguntas aos professores, tá certo? Então, eu vou agora voltar para o inglês para poder sinalizar aos professores. Então, por favor, desliguem suas câmeras e os microfones. Ok, Ennio, Francesco, and Giorgio, it's up to you. So, okay, good luck. So I will just turn off my camera and microphone so you guys have 1 hour. Okay, thanks a lot in advance.
Good morning, everybody. I guess it's morning out there. And many, many thanks to Professor Carvalho, Professor Mota for your very, very kind words and warm welcome. My role here will be basically that of presenting the PhD program in economics, analytics, and decision sciences that we are running and launching actually in these days. Applications will be open until the end of June. And I won't enter much into research lines that will be done on their part by Professor Francesco Setti and Professor Giorgio Gnecco. We also have other faculty members here. I can see Professor Massimo Riccaboni and Professor Armando Lungi among the audience, and also, of course, Professor José Carvalho, which is part of our board, scientific board. Let me immediately share the screen and start with a few words. I will try to spend on the presentation of the PhD program not more than 20 minutes to give more room to questions and discussion. Please let me know if you can't see the slides properly. So what we are going to start next November, it's a new program with the deep roots in our previous program. The new program is titled Economics, Analytics, and Decision Sciences, not by chance, but it's built on multidisciplinary research around the econ area in various respects. I'll be the coordinator, and in this situation, I'm just telling you regarding the general features of the program, of the school, and of the kind of life prospective students should think of. Okay, we'll tell you something about the student's profile we look for and we generate as a output of the program, more or less what is the program structure, a bit of an overview of the faculty, which is larger and it will be very quick. But you have our website. You can find many details on our websites. I'll share with you the address. It's also on the flyer, but I will remind you at the end. Then the students' benefits. We are very proud that our institution is able to provide generous benefits to our students, as we want to attract the top-tier, best promising students worldwide. The kind of campus life that we have at the IMT school in general, not just for the EIDEIA PhD program. Our placement, as you might want to know where our students tend to end up as a career perspective. And then finally, to conclude on how to apply. All this information will be available from other sources, but I think it's kind of useful to summarize them here. Okay, what is this program about? Basically, it's about training students to undertake cutting-edge research in economic and social disciplines. The peculiarity is the multidisciplinary approach that relies on statistics and data science as unifying language and draws tools and borrows tools from computer science on one side and psychology from the other. That's why economics, analytics, and decision sciences. For the incoming students profile, what we look for is with students holding a degree from a very wide range of fields. You can see many there, ranging from the standard econ area to more applied math-like disciplines, or more psychology-like disciplines, or more analytical and engineering disciplines. The point is, whatever it is your background, you should have good quantitative skills or provide a proof of your ability to acquire them. And we will give many sessions on quantitative skills training. Also, very important, we are not multidisciplinary because basically everything goes. No, we have a multidisciplinary approach to studying economics, analytics, and decision sciences. That is, the profile of the incoming student should be interested very much in acquiring those competencies that regard those fields, but could not have them at the beginning. So coming from several different areas is perfectly okay, but the focus should be towards getting those distinctive competencies. So what this leads to? Basically, outgoing students finish the PhD having strong competencies on two aspects: the analysis of economic decision making and the statistical econometric analysis of data and evidence. Then, on top of this, which is common to everybody, there is individual specialization at the border of pairs disciplines. Could be economics and management, could be management and decision sciences, or economics and decision sciences broadly intended. Not all of them, one of them on top of the basics in the first bullet. And this provides typically competitive characteristic for a job market candidate for the academia, as you might expect, but also for the public administration that is increasingly searching for those profiles, international institutions like European Central Bank, to give a good example, research laboratories, or even regulatory authorities, as well as private companies with R&D divisions, or in search for enlightened managers. Now, what is the structure of the ERTS program? We have one intensive first year of courses, more than 350 hours, which has a core in economics, analytics, and decision sciences, a series of advanced courses in specific areas of interest to build up your own profile, and then a number of laboratories where you learn coding, data collection, both experimental and field, and how to analyze that data sets that you might have collected or that you just borrowed from other sources. Then we have long seminars from external faculty to focus and deepen specific topics that are somehow brought about by the external faculty members that enlarge our scientific collaboration network. The years from 2 to 4 will focalize the student on research, basically selecting 2 or more advisors, at least one from our faculty, possibly visiting up to 11 months other institutions, and potentially running into our joint programs schedule, which has several universities, 2 of which are most established are Catholic University of Louvain and University of Alicante, but others are ongoing, hopefully also with your institutions. And in these 3 years, what you end up doing is focusing more and more on your own research and producing 3 research papers publishable in top journals. That's the more or less structure of the PhD program from the didactic point of view. And if you want to have an overview of the faculty, the best thing I can do, because each professor here would require kind of 1-hour analysis of the contributions or top quality people. But if you want to have a first glance of what we have, as you can see, we have economics, management, statistics, econometrics, cognitive sciences, optimization, computer science, network science, and regulation with different weights in terms of numerosity. Not all of them come from IMT. You can see we have people from Queen Mary, University of London, IE Madrid, University of Utrecht, other universities in Italy or London. So we have in the board a group of people not from IMT, but 2/3 come from IMT with different specializations. Now, what you can expect to get if you are successfully admitted and you enroll in our program. For 4 years, you will have a desk in our offices for the students and access to the campus, which is, would say, marvelous setting for studying and enjoying relaxation. We will provide for free an accommodation in an hotel-like single room with all the services of high quality hotel, I would say, also with cleaning services for 3 years, which is kind of worth service. And free meals for the 4 years, lunch, dinner every day, all the year long. Why? Because our approach is to have a campus life with the people doing research and the students doing research with the advice and with the collaborators all together, all the time in the campus. So that's why we provide that generous benefits. And on top of that, we provide a scholarship, which is tax-free, so it's basically net income per year, that allows to live fairly well in Lucca. So what is campus life? Very different things. 80 hours per day, you work hard, sometimes 10, especially the first year when there are many courses. You have many things to do and you learn a lot, but you do it in a community. you can see on the upper left a picture of our cloister, which is part of the campus. In the upper right, the desks of the students, which all together work on the research papers. And you can see on the bottom left the relax room where students can play and do whatever they like. But also students discussing their own research together in the classrooms and at the center. And in the bottom right, the canteen, where students gather and do socialize or, beside having lunch and getting nutrition. So basically, the campus offers all aspects of life. You are, of course, not required to stay in the campus all the time, but the campus is really a gravitation center of the life of the students for years. And many of our best students wouldn't like to go, and many of them cry a lot when they have to graduate. But actually, this allows super focusing and relation building that are long lasting, I would say, for your whole life. Okay. Oh, what can you do after the PhD? Our placement is good, I would say very good, and getting better and better. This is the last 3 years of placement. You can see 2017 is still ongoing, but you can see we have been placing almost everybody in the past, and ranging from in academia, good academic institutions, private sector data analysis, private sector consulting, research institutions that has nothing to do with the academia, or international economic institution like Central Bank or European Investment Bank. It depends very much on the kind of profile you build for yourself, but all these opportunities are actually open and very much supported by our placement office and the whole IMT school. Okay, a few words about the application. The application is only online. In some important dates you should keep in mind and take note of is that the deadline is at 12 o'clock in the morning of the 30th of June 2022, so less than 1 month from now, 3 weeks. The deadline is sharp and there are no exceptions. And at the very end, in the last days, it's going to be kind of crowded. And so the online system could not work properly if you apply the last minute. So please take care if you're interested. During July 22, we will go for interviews. At the late July, early August, we will provide the final ranking and offer admissions and enrollments. The program starts November 2022, when admitted students are required to relocate to our campus and start the first year of intensive courses. So I hope I didn't take too much time. Let me just greet all of you. Thanks for your time, and indicate the contacts that you should use for getting other information or further details. You can always contact me for scientific issues regarding the overall structure, but for any application detail or visa issues or other instances related to organizational stuff, please write to phd_applications@imtluca.it or directly call English speaking to that number. Okay, we will remind you several times our website. You also have it on the flyer. Let me thank you very much for your attention and give the floor to Francesco and Giorgio, who will stop the advertisement and go into research seminars. Thank you very much.
Part. Thank you.
Okay. So good morning. Many thanks for the invitation and for organizing this seminar to present our PhD. After the presentation of Ennio, I will focus a little bit on my lines of research. So it's just I'm just really a member of the faculty, so there is much more than what I will present, but this is just I'm here just to be an example, say, of what you would find in our faculty. So I will talk a little bit about my previous research, and then some representative papers, and then I will focus on some line of research that are active now. So my name is Francesco Serpi, and I am a professor of economics, and I mostly do applied research. So let's say that my field of research is applied econometrics, and applied especially to the fields of international trade, labor economics, and earth economics. So here I'm showing you, so it's better to see the screen. So some previous paper that have been already published. This paper, the first one that I'm showing you, the pecuniary cost of job displacement, the risky job of being back to work, is a paper which is based on Italian administrative data, employee data, meaning that we have information on employees, but also on firms in which they are employed, and we can observe all the work histories of these employees. Moreover, let's say, apart of being able to observe standard labor market outcomes such as earnings and wages, we are also able to observe an important proxy of non-pecuniary labor market outcomes, which is job-related accident proxy for job safety. So what we study in this paper is the effect of job displacement on the future trajectory of work. This is a topic of research that is very, let's say, this is classic in the literature of labor economics, but what we do, let's say, new with respect to the literature is to focus on workplace safety. So basically, what we find is that these workers do not have relevant displacement effects on wages. Instead, they have earning losses that are due mainly to periods of non-employment after being displaced from their job. And moreover, what we find is that when we do heterogeneity analysis, is that workers that have low pre-displacement wages, okay, have higher losses in terms of workplace safety. Okay, so the interpretation of the results is that due to the fact that wages in Italy are downward rigid, people that are less skilled, if they want to be better to work, they have to accept more dangerous jobs. Then in the second, and this paper was published in European Economic Review. Then in the second paper, with the title Macroeconomic Conditions at Entry and Injury Risk at Workplace, which was relatively recently published in Scandinavian Journal of Economics, we studied the effect of unfavorable business cycle conditions at entry on the earnings and workplace safety of young workers. So basically, we study whether workers that happen to enter the labor market during periods in which macroeconomic conditions are relatively bad have a persistent effect on their future labor market outcomes. What we find is that entrants during recession are locked into low quality jobs, and we find that basically that the mix of hazardous tasks is adjusting endogenously to the business cycle, basically overcoming other kind of institutional and wage rigidities. So basically, in these two papers, what we do, we underline the fact if there are institutional and wage rigidities in the job market, what we can expect is that to find adjustments as a reaction to economic shock in terms of non-pecuniary labor market job characteristics, which are difficult to be, let's say, regulated and controlled, such as, for example, workplace safety. Then, this is another stream of my past projects in which I study basically the internationalization of firms. In this first paper, Firms International Trade Importers and Exporters Heterogeneity in the Italian Manufacturing Industry, we test the hypothesis of self-selection into exporting and learning by exporting. Basically, we try to understand why firms that export tend to be more productive. If it is just if it can be explained just by resorting to self-selection explanation, meaning that these firms are more productive from the beginning, only more productive firms start to export, or if they are able to learn something by exporting. So if there is an improvement of performances also after engaging in exporting. But in general, in this stream of research, what we do, we offer a comprehensive picture of firm internationalization strategy by relating firm heterogeneity to both exporting and importing activities. Instead, in this paper, the role of the gravity forces on firms trade, let's say the additions to the literature that we offer is, first of all, to identify ways to estimate TFP at the firm level, also incorporating productivity effects coming from importing intermediate inputs. And we also show theoretically that this effect of importing on TFP, so on productivity, are related to the characteristics of the source country. Basically, meaning that importing from a developed country is not the same as importing as developing countries. Then, what about ongoing projects? For example, we have a project on studying employment protection legislation, so studying labor market flexibility. Labor market flexibility has been considered an important factor of competitiveness in the era of globalization, and an important factor to favor employment of marginal workers, young workers, unskilled workers, unemployed workers. And previous research has found, let's say, correlational evidence that workers employed in fixed-term contracts display a higher risk of work-related accident and have a lower absenteeism rate than workers in open-ended jobs. So based on another time on the same data set that I presented you at the beginning, so an Italian employee administrative data set, we have also, we are in the process also of acquiring the access to a similar data set for Spain. The idea is to reconsider all these research questions on the effect of labor market flexibility on the career of labor market outcomes of workers, and to do it using, let's say, quasi-experimental methods, in particular by using a regression discontinuity design. I can say more about, let's say, the identification strategy if you're interested later on. Then this is another similar research in which we are also active at IMT, so studying blood and plasma donation. Blood plasma donation represents an important component for health system and a paradigmatic example of prosociality. So we are able to exploit Italian administrative data on blood donors with information on their personal characteristics. And what we do, we use experimental and quasi-experimental techniques to study the determinants of prosocial behavior. We have already 2 working papers, one on the effect of symbolic incentives in stimulating donations, another one on the effect of COVID-19 on the number of new donors. So this is just to show you the award scheme for blood donors. Basically, they receive these medals depending on the number of donations they do, or the number of years in which they are enrolled in this, let's say, as a blood donor. What we do in the paper, we use an event study technique, so 2-way fixed effect model, in particular a model in which we allow also individual specific rate of growth of efficiency as donors, and this basically with this picture you can see the different effect of receiving these awards. The award is received at time 0. Okay, so this is the effect of 3 different types of awards. Okay, before after receiving the award and before receiving the award. Clearly, in this picture, we can see that just this type of, let's say, award has a relevant effect. I didn't tell you that, I'm sorry, the dependent variable is the time that passes between 2 donations. Okay, this is just an example. Then we have, for example, another project in which we study the effect of COVID-19 on the propensity to export, and to do it, we use recent causal machine learning techniques, in particular to study treatment effect heterogeneity. So this is an example of, so this is basically the main result we find. Okay, we use, we present in this picture results from Lasso and random forest estimation. The results are very similar. So we find that, let's say, the peak of the effect in 2020, negative effects on the probability to export are clearly in April. But what we do, our say machine learning strategy is very useful, especially to study the heterogeneity of the effect. So as you can see, here we sort the estimated individual specific effects from the lowest to the highest effect, okay, so that we can give, let's say, a more a representative picture of what is happening beyond the average effect. The average effect is this one in black. Okay, so as you can see, for example, we basically don't find anything January and February. So let's say this shows us that we can trust our models because we don't find effects where we should not find. And indeed, instead, we find a lot of heterogeneity, for example, in April, in May, and something in June. Then to finish, another stream of research is on production methods. Okay, in particular, in this ongoing project, what we study is information spillovers between firms. So there is a big literature that study whether firms can learn to import or to export from other firms importing or exporting to some particular destinations. And this literature concentrate on spillover effects that are just at the geographical and sectoral level. So basically, you benefit from this information spillover if you are in a geographical location or in a sector in which there are a lot of firms that are exporting. What we argue in this stream of research is that it's not just important being in the same place. What is important to receive, let's say, this information spillover is to be in contact with other firms. So, thanks to being able to observe the Spanish production network, we are able to test this. Okay, so to test whether a firm probability to start importing or exporting depends on its position within the domestic production network. What is the domestic production network? Basically, it's we can observe all the transactions between firms. So, thanks to administrative data on VAT, on taxes. And then to finish, so this is an example of the Spanish production network. We just show at the zip code level. Okay, so each point is a zip code, but within a zip code there are a lot of firms. Okay, so and we are able to observe the population of Spanish firms, not just a sample. This is an example of let's say a direct and indirect connection of a firm. Okay, so basically firm 1 can see information from firm 3 or from firm 2, so from providers or clients, okay, and so on. Okay, so information can flow through the connections in the network. Finally, what we do is another project. What we do is to use concepts, let's say borrowing concepts from the social networks literature and try to apply them to the production in a production network setting. So what we argue in this paper is that firms that are embedded in network configurations that are closed, so network configurations that favor trust and mutual cooperation, also increase, are able to increase their performance, are able to exploit in a better way, okay, and use in a better way technology coming from contained in imported inputs. So, and this is an example, just a picture showing that we can observe both the production network, so the connection between firms, but from the production network, we can also observe the ownership network. Okay, so we can let's say compute social networks indicators, okay, based on this layer, and to see whether they are effective in explaining firm performance on this, let's say, in the production network on this layer. Okay, many thanks for your attention. If you have questions or comments, you can do it now or at the end. And now I will the floor to Giorgio.
Okay, thanks a lot, Francesco. So are you going to have now the presentation from I'm sorry, from Giorgio? Is that? Okay, so yeah, so I think that maybe we reserve the last 15 minutes to all questioning. I think it's the better way to proceed, okay? Is it fine with you?
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, thanks a lot. So you can now go on, Giorgio.
Thank you so much. Okay.
There.
Dove? Prima?
Sì.
Ah, per mettere insieme intero. Okay. Okay, I hope you can hear me. Thank you so much for the invitation. My name is Giorgio Gnecco, and I'm an associate professor in operations research here at IMT Lucca. And here, the following way, we'll just present a very broad overview of my research. Of course, there is not so much time to go deeper into details. And let's say that my main research interests are in these. I'm interested in the development and application of mathematical models for problems of interest to economics, and sometimes also to other fields. And my background is indeed in operations research. Operations research is basically applied mathematics, and you can apply mathematics to basically every scientific field in economics. And the main techniques used in my research are tools from optimization, such as linear programming, nonlinear programming, combinatorial optimization, depending on the specific problem, optimization problem that we have to solve. Game theory, and I work both with cooperative and non-cooperative game theory. We'll show some examples later. Machine learning. The reason why I'm mentioning this is that typically you can formulate a machine learning problem as an optimization problem. When you have to train a learning machine, you have to optimize some parameters basically. And so this is why optimization is very useful to study machine learning. And I work both with supervised, unsupervised, or semi-supervised methods, depending on the context. And I often try to develop new methods, or maybe to improve existing methods, and then to validate them with a numerical implementation. Typically, I use the MATLAB in my research, but of course, these algorithms can be implemented also using other tools, of course, other software. And my research is both theoretical and applied. Actually, I prefer the theoretical research, but I'm very happy when I can see that this research has some nice applications. And these are just some PhD courses of mine that I'm teaching here at this program. You can find the syllabus in the website of the EADS PhD program. And these courses are related, of course, to my competencies that I mentioned before. So advanced topics of machine learning, MATLAB for data science, mathematics, algebra, and optimal control and differential games. But I think I can skip this slide because you can find the details on the website. And in the following, I will just present some past research of mine related to these topics mentioned before, and especially at the end, if there will be time, I will also present some research with some past former PhD students here at MT, and I work with them, and they are Federico Nutarelli and Falco Bargaiestoffi, and these two past students are respectively now at Bocconi University and Harvard University. But before I will just present some other research activities in which I was involved in the past, and I will just present one slide for each topic, basically, without going into deeper details. This is just an application of optimization to pricing models, and this is a recent paper together with Francesco Biancalani and Professor Ricaboni here at MT. This is a model of price volume agreements which is used in the pharmaceutical sector. Basically, this is just a figure from the paper. For instance, you can just read it, have a quick look at the abstract maybe, or some sections, so the first section of the paper. And in this model, basically, there are two time periods. And in the first period, the buyer can buy some product only from a single manufacturer. And in the second period, there is competition between two manufacturers. Let us think, for instance, that In the second period, there is some patent expiration, and then there is competition. In the first period, there is only a single manufacturer, and then later you have two manufacturers. And then here we use the tools from so-called the contract theory, which is an application of game theory, to optimize basically the contracts that the buyer proposed to the manufacturers. And we studied the optimization problem, we studied properties of its optimal solution, and so on. And so this is just an application of optimization to this pricing model. Then in other research, we also, I and also my co-authors, of course, developed some other optimal pricing models. In this case, in these two papers, we were interested in the optimizing prices for a manufacturer. And in this situation, basically, here the manufacturer is producing something and some product, and then the manufacturer sells this product both to consumers in one country and also to a distributor in a second country. But this distributor can compete with the initial manufacturer by selling back the product to the consumers in the first country, and he can also sell the product to consumers in the second country. So there is this competition, and sometimes you do not want to have this, so you want to avoid this phenomenon, which is called parallel trade. And so we studied in the first paper some game theoretical models in which we studied the sub-game perfect equilibria, and we were interested in finding a situation in which at the equilibrium there is no parallel trade, basically. And in a second paper, in which we used a simplified model, instead we assumed some constraints on the prices in order to make basically parallel trade disappear since the beginning. And so the program was simple, there was basically no competition at all, but there were some constraints on the price. And the nice issue here is that both models in the two papers were solved in closed form. So this is just something related to this paper. Then now I'm just presenting some application of cooperative game theory to problems on graphs. And as you probably know, in the literature there are several measures of complexity of nodes in a network. The simplest of these measures is just the node centrality, the degree of the node, sorry. You can also use some more sophisticated measures, of course. And in the recent past, in the literature, you can find some other measure of complexity of nodes which are based on cooperative game theory. Basically, you formulate a suitable cooperative game on a graph, and then you can apply concepts such as the Shapley value to find the most important nodes in the network. And this is just what we did here in these two papers. And again, just simply reporting the result for an artificial network, this one. And then for a realistic case study, this is just a network in Jerusalem, if I remember. And this framework is quite general, and these measures of complexity are more general than degree centrality or something, or the other ones that you can find in literature, because you can basically include in the definition of the characteristic function of the game specific features of the network, such as the demand between different nodes, the traffic demands, and so on. But there is no time, of course, to explain all these details. And in these two papers, we just study this measure of complexity for nodes in the network, and in other works we study also the measure of complexity or centrality of arcs in the network, and again we use the cooperative game theory on graphs. And in this paper in particular we studied this important phenomenon, which is called the Bryce paradox. Basically this means that let us consider a transportation network. Let us suppose that in the original network there are all these links apart from this one, from node 2 to node 3. Then you include this new link in the network. You are adding a resource to the network, and you expect that the performance, the global performance of the network is improved thanks to the addition of this link. But instead, in practice, when you do this, sometimes you have a degradation of the performance, simply because maybe everyone wants to use this link, and then you have congestion, like here. And so here we used this measure of complexity of centrality of an arc in the network based on the Shapley value to study the importance of this link. And you can see that depending on the value of the demand, in this particular case, there are some situations in which the importance of this link becomes even negative. This means basically that you would like to remove this this link from the network instead of having it. Sorry, actually, you have a written complexity, but the centrality measure is this typo. This is centrality, not complexity. Sorry for the typo. And these are some other papers related instead to non-cooperative game theory, in particular to differential game theory. And these are more theoretical. So sorry that there are no figures here. I'm just trying to explain very quickly some details and about these models. This is a model of transboundary. These are models of transboundary collusion, in which there are two countries and two players. So the players are just the countries, and basically they are controlling a system differential equations. These P and A are just the state variables. P stands for collusion stock, and A stands for environmental absorption efficiency, and they evolve according to these system differential equations. And the two players can intervene on this dynamical system by exercising some controls. So, for instance, this is the emission rate of country I, and this is its effort to restore the environmental absorption efficiency. And there is also some utility associated with the two countries. There is no space to report it here, but this is one of the ingredients of the model. And then in these papers, we studied several kinds of equilibria for different for some models related to these system differential equations. So we studied a cooperative solution in which the two countries are cooperating to jointly maximize the common utility, basically. Then we studied the open loop Nash equilibrium, Markov-Perfect Nash equilibrium, and so on. And in some cases, we obtained steady closed form expressions for steady-state solutions. In other cases, instead, we applied numerical methods to find the transient behavior. And these are some of the methods applied. Then I don't know how much time I still to complete the presentation. This is some more recent work together with Professor Riccaboni and also other people here at MT, also outside MT. And this is a hot topic of research. This method is called the matrix completion. And I know that it has a very important applications in economics. And this is, as you can see, this is a quite recent paper. And basically, the idea is the following: that you have a matrix, and you observe this matrix only partially. You cannot observe all the elements of the matrix, and you want to reconstruct the rest of the matrix. And under some assumptions, so you can do this if you make some additional assumptions about the structure of the matrix. For instance, that this matrix has a low rank. And so this is just an optimization problem. And by the way, you can see that this is the typical form of an optimization problem in supervised learning, which you want to optimize the trade-off between a data fitting term, which is this, which is basically the reconstruction error of the portion of the matrix that you are observing, and the regularization term that impose some prior knowledge on the matrix, basically. And then we just solve this problem. We optimize the hyperparameter lambda, the regularization parameter, using the training set, validation set, and so on. Of course, I will skip the details. And here, in this paper, we combine this matrix completion with hierarchical clustering in order to find basically to apply matrix completion not to the whole matrix, which was an input-output matrix, but only to a portion of this matrix for which we expected this matrix completion to perform in a better way with respect to a randomly chosen submatrix. You can see the details in any case here in this paper. And the goal here is simply to show you some research that I did in the past. So this is another program which we applied matrix completion together with this former PhD student, Federico Contrario, who is now at Lucca University. And here we use the matrix completion in a quite different way to define a new index of economic complexity. So this matrix, you can see that the rows are countries and the columns are products. And the goal here was basically to, this is the original matrix, and then we try to reconstruct it using the matrix completion. And the goal here is basically to see how difficult it is to reconstruct the row associated with a specific country, in the sense that we assess that for this program, matrix completion is quite good performance, but for some countries the performance is not so good. For other countries, instead, the performance of matrix completion is better. And so basically, we just defined, basically, usually speaking, a country to be complex when the performance of automatic completion is not good. When basically, the larger the complexity, the larger the unpredictability of the values associated with the specific country, so with the specific role, the larger the complexity of that country. This is the basic idea, and actually, you can find more details in the paper about how it is developed in the paper, and so we developed this new index of economic complexity, and here we have just colored countries according to this index, and here we are comparing these values, this economic complexity index with another one, which is quite famous. And this is another work, again, with Federico Mutarelli, which is unrelated to the previous one. And actually, this is a series of works with him, in which we optimize the trade-off between number of examples and their precision of supervision in several econometric models. And can just explain here the main idea behind this work, these works. And we are considering a framework in which one can basically control the variance of the measurement noise, in the sense that let's suppose that you have to acquire some data set, and maybe you can reduce the noise in each datum by increasing the acquisition time or the acquisition cost of each example. But then let us suppose that you have a budget constraint, and then this means that if you reduce the variance of the measured noise by increasing the acquisition cost, for example, then you have also to reduce the size of the data set. And so our goal was just to optimize basically this acquisition cost, for example. So we just formulated a suitable optimization problem. So we specifically optimize the large sample approximation of this conditional generalization error. I've just reported here a nasty formula from the paper. Then we just obtain large sample approximation of this, and we solve the optimization problem. And again, a nice issue is that the closed form optimal solution were obtained. And we did this in this paper and also in other edited papers. And then I've almost finished. This is two other papers with another former PhD student, and Falco Bargaistofi, who is currently at Harvard University. Here I'm presenting to research done with him. This one is related to philosophical aspects of machine learning, just to show you that indeed here at MIT you are doing a very interdisciplinary research. You can interact even with the philosopher of science, like his colleague Gustavo Cevolani. And here the goal was just to study machine learning using a statistical learning theory, and to find some situations in which this classical regularization term used here in this model, instead of improving machine learning, instead is making it slower. Actually, this is not typically the case. Typically, you use this regularization term. Typically, in machine learning programs, you have a regularization term like this. But there are some situations in which instead adding these regulation terms can make machine learning become slower. So this is not nice. So this is quite a paradoxical situation, and then this is just the outside of the work. And basically, in machine learning, typically one tries to find simple models, but there are some strange situations in which the reality is complex and the simple models do not perform so well. So you can see that in this picture, only this guy is following this path. In this case, the reality is complex, and this is the only one who is following the correct path. You can find, of course, the mathematical details here in this paper if you're interested. So it is not so easy to summarize this work here. And to conclude, this is another work with Falco again, which is related to what Francesco explained before. This is the combination. This work is about the combination of machine learning techniques with the more classical causal inference techniques. Machine learning is typically used for prediction purposes, and you can try to combine machine learning with research about causal inference. And in this particular case, machine learning was used basically to identify subpopulations of original population, and then causal effects were studied for each subpopulations were identified. And to conclude, here I have also last slide in which I'm just summarizing other research that I've done in the past, for which I've applied, as you can see, optimization in model suspension systems, optimization insurance models against structural hazards. Again, this is another application of matrix completion. I've also used tools such as Shapley value, actually in this case, the so-called generalized Shapley value, to study measures of importance of players in basketball. And these are other two works which are about the analysis of trajectories in motion capture data and curve identification problems arising models of mechanical metafilters. I have included also these two last applications in this slide because, of course, at the first sight, they are not related at all to economics, but actually all these two works are about analysis of time series. So maybe I hope in the future to try to see if these techniques can be useful in some way also, for instance, in applications in finance. So you can see that sometimes also having some interdisciplinary research can be useful. And by the way, just to conclude the presentation, I would like to tell you that one source of inspiration in the past for one of the problems that I mentioned before, specifically this one, the optimal trade-off between number of examples and their precision of supervision. This is some research that I did with the Trade Trade, which is related to econometrics, and one source of inspiration for this research came actually from studying optimization problems in mechanical metafilters, so something which is at first sight not at all related with economics, but sometimes doing some interdisciplinary research you can have some hopefully nice ideas for other research. And I've concluded the presentation, and I'm here for questions. Francesco, thank you so much for your attention, by the way.
Okay, thanks a lot, Giorgio. I think now we are approaching the third and last part of our seminar, which is devoted now to questions or remarks from the audience. Okay, I can advance that usually Brazilians are shy people, so don't be stressed if you don't have many questions right now. So probably they will send you emails. But guys, from the audience, if you have any questions, so it's the right time to address. And this includes also students and also professors in the audience. Okay, I have actually already two questions. The first one, Charles raised his hand. So Charles, you can start, and after you, people send me 2 or 3 questions, you students, and then I can send it to you. Okay, Charles, it's your turn.
Thank you, Simon. You can start with the questions from the students if you want.
Already?
Yeah,
okay.
No problem.
Okay, so thanks a lot. I have a first question here. It's probably Giorgio will answer. There's a guy here who is curious about, let me see. Okay, just hold on a second. Okay, Francisco Isidoro Pereira just asked, can I study something that relates to corporate finance? Maybe I think that he is trying to figure out that if there's someone interested in applying all this knowledge at IMT to the subject. Anyway, anyone from you guys 3 can answer that. So I just asked because it was a coincidence that Giorgio mentioned that there's probably some connection with finance. But anyway,
I put a short answer in the chat. Basically, this is for corporate finance, but also for any other topic. To the extent that the analysis is quantitatively sound, and that there are synergies with the research lines in the advisor's pocket, I think it's potentially a good match. So okay. I invite students to check the faculty. I put the link in the chat. I don't know if Francesco and Giorgio want to add something, or also Massimo or Armando, they are also here.
I may add only one element, that there are already students that I know that they were interested in corporate finance. We found that among our in our board there is Alessia Pacagnini. She is also an external member of the board. She is involved in some corporate in finance, actually research about finance. She is also a director of a master in quantitative finance at the University College of Dublin. So there could be some synergies across institutions, I think. But that's valid what Ennio was saying, that they should be, say, quantitatively sound also from a quantitative economic point of view, no? From a quantitative point of view.
Okay, thanks a lot, Francesco and Ennio. There is a second question from Veda. Actually, this guy is from my program. Well, it's a question that many might have. He's kind of concerned about the deadline. He knows that it's a deadline, so a deadline is a deadline. He's just asking that if this deadline is the same at each year. So probably he's not sure he wants to apply this year, but might apply next year. So that's why I can get from his questioning. Can you address a little bit, Ennio, or about this? I mean, yeah.
I put already some details in the chat, but let me summarize for everybody. The deadline, first thing to be clarified, the deadline is for application. Okay. You don't need to have the necessary title to be enrolled, that is Master Degree, by the end of June. The end of June is for applying. After that, you cannot apply anymore. But you have time until the end of October, the last day of October, to get the title that will grant you access to the PhD program. So if you graduate in September or October, it's fine. We will evaluate the potential depending on the material uploaded in the application. Okay. As concerns the future, we plan to have other different timing for applications in the future. Typically, our aim is to have it earlier, but I would not make any commitment at this stage. If not, that if you have some interest, you should apply and see what you can do by the end of October. Of course, if you plan not to graduate in time, then there's no point in applying, and you might think of next year. In which case, importantly, pay attention to the call for applications because it might be as early as March.
Okay, thanks a lot. There's another question. Well, I cannot see the name. It's maybe anyway. It's about is the whole teaching in English? The teaching is all in English, or is there something in Italian? So basically, I mean, she wants to know if she can survive, she can be successful if she only speaks Portuguese and English.
Yes, the answer is yes. The official language, not of the PhD program, but of the IMT School for Advanced Studies, Lucca, is English, not Italian. So everything is formally just in English. But of course, you live in a historical Italian city, so you will need some Italian for living outside the campus. And that's why we provide for free an Italian course for everybody, just on top of everything else, late in the afternoon, late in the evening, I would say, just to give this other tool for the student who doesn't speak Italian, but for surviving the city, not the campus. The campus is 100% English run.
Okay, that's very kind of yours offering this Italian course. We have a guy here, Francisco Claudio, who raised his hand. So I guess that he wants to speak by himself. Okay, Francisco Claudio, go on.
Morning for ladies and gentlemen. Special thanks to the professor for the presentations and information. My questions is related to air transport engineering, specifically air traffic management. I'm looking for a PhD in this area, specifically in the studies of resilience of air traffic management systems, but not based in game theory and the complex network theory. Is there any kind of PhD program in your faculty university? Thank you.
Okay, thanks a lot, Francisco. Okay, guys, like who wants to address?
Giorgio, you are the one who has to answer, but tell me.
Okay, actually, I'm quite interested in this topic. I'm also working with other colleagues also in other universities, and one in Israel and the other one at the University of Vienna. And one of these is just an expert in transportation systems. So I think that this can be a quite interesting application. If you will be selected, I would like to help you working on that topic, for instance. By the way, in the past, I often worked with people coming from different backgrounds. For instance, I mentioned before Teleinformática and Falco, and I also learned a lot from them. So if sometimes I can work on different topics, for me it's nice. The important thing is that there is something quantitative in the research proposed by the student, of course.
Okay. Okay, thanks a lot. Let me see, Charles, if there's... Oh, sorry, Ennio. Go ahead.
Just to be very frank, open, and transparent, I would say that if you are looking for a research project entailing some economic content, then what Giorgio said is perfect. If you look for pure engineering, very field specific research, maybe you might look at other programs also from the IMT school. We have system science, another PhD program with many engineering tracks. You might want to look at them. So it much depends on the phenomena. Transportation is fundamentally economic, so it's not just engineering, it's not just optimization, right? There is much about economic activities. So it depends on the flavor and the perspective, I would say, taking for granted what Giorgio correctly said.
Okay, okay, thanks a lot, Ennio. So I think, Charles, there's no more question from students so far. So maybe it's the right time that you could address yours.
I mean, but it is just fine to be at the end, because my question is somewhat related to what Francisco Claudio mentioned, not specifically for the given subject, but when Giorgio was presenting. And by the way, thank you all very much for those nice presentations, clarifying points and raising some very interesting research questions. I believe that we have several connections with our university. I mean, we are more, maybe not very interdisciplinary, but more disciplinary at some points. But I recognize it's several tools that we use a lot in different areas. For example, I'm from the engineering department, and we use a lot machine learning, cooperative networks, and so on. So I do not have exactly a question, but maybe some discussion, open discussions, because some of the topics I've been handling or actually tackling some of them in the last few years, but not from an economic perspective, but more on the application side. So I have the tool, given, let's say, machine learning or complex network theory or whatever, and I usually work on with those tools for my problems on the engineering part. So one point that I have been seeing something that can be useful for the context of economics is related to graph signal processing, where instead of having a network, you model your, let's say, signals or quantities that you want as a graph, and you can derive different measurements or different tools to work with. So have you seen anything like that, Giorgio, especially to Giorgio that mentioned that graph signal processing for economic modeling? I think it's muted.
Okay. Actually, I'm not so expert on this. Probably also some engineers are working on this or even maybe Professor Ben, or I don't know. I don't know exactly, actually.
Okay. Yeah.
No, but the ground is in optimization, operations research, and I often work here with economics, but my background originally, actually, at the time I studied telecommunications engineering, so I'm not so expert in all the possible applications.
Okay, great.
Okay.
Thank you.
If I can, of course, give you the slides of the talk, I will, of course, correct some focus.
Sure.
If you're interested in some.
Great. Thank you.
Okay, guys, we are approaching the end because we have only 10 minutes. Okay, I will say something in English and then switch to the final. Okay, so I mean, okay. Okay. I thought that there was a question, but we have no more questions. First of all, thanks a lot, guys. I mean, I think that the mixing, I mean, the mixing joys that you made. I mean, Ennio explaining the institutional aspects of the program, then Francesco and Giorgio presenting two chunks of research agendas. It was very nice. I mean, it made very clear to our students and professors here that how the way to do a top type of interdisciplinarity. I mean, in terms of using tools, using methodologies outside the common sense of economics and apply it to economics, behavioral, I mean, decision side. It was very nice. I mean, for me, it was kind of opened my mind. I mean, it was good also for me as well, because it was a very nice opportunity to understand even more the program. So you guys are, I mean, I congratulate you. Very nice approach. I mean, hopefully these things, I mean, we'll succeed, and I'm pretty sure that we'll succeed. There's a very, I mean, specific place in the scientific arena to, I mean, to welcome this kind of approach. Very nice. I mean, thanks a lot for letting us know this type of approach. It's very important for us at the Advanced Institute here in UFC to see that, I mean, a group of economists and other scientists like also can do interdisciplinary top, I mean, approach to economics and other behavioral science. Very good, because you, I mean, make very clear that engineering, mathematician, philosophers, and all types of interdisciplinarity is very welcome in this as a broad agenda. So I thank you very much. Well, I mean, I think that it's time to, I mean, if you guys want to say, I mean, Ennio, Francesco, and Giorgio, some few final words, I can give you 1 minute or 2 minutes, and then I just ask Charles to finalize everything, okay?
I'll be very brief. It's just an invitation. First of all, thanks. I think it was very, very useful in building a bridge between our institutions and work together. And then please feel free to contact me if you have any question or you desire to have more information regarding specific details. Don't be shy, ask. Somebody will tell you, will give you an answer and provide the needed information. We want to solicit applications by good students, very much motivated, with passionate multidisciplinary approach. If you are that kind of guy, please consider applying. I don't know if the other faculty members want to add something.
No, just to say another time, thanks and thanks. Nothing more.
Okay. Thank you so much for the invitation. And if okay, we'll send to Ennio or directly to you the copy of the slides. And if you, some prospective student is interested in the papers, I can send him or have the PDF of the paper, of course.
Sure.
He or she cannot find it on the web.
Okay, so, okay, thanks a lot, guys. So Charles will address something in Portuguese, and then right after I'll address just a bye-bye in Portuguese, and everybody goes home. We are approaching our lunchtime in Brazil, so now we are hungry as well. Okay, Charles.
Okay, let me just finish in English, and then I'll switch to
Okay.
So it's just to deeply thank Ennio, Francesco, Giorgio for the nice presentations. The really, let's say, open-minded, as Raimundo mentioned, research topics and discussions. at least from my side, you will you'll have some emails for discussions after this meeting. So thank you very much. Then I'll switch to Portuguese to address the audience now. Então, obrigado, pessoal, a audiência, né, pela presença. A gente espera que tenha sido útil para todos vocês aí o esclarecimento do Instituto de Estudos Avançados da Universidade de Lucca, na Itália. Reforça a mensagem dos interessados procurarem o contato, né, e buscarem aí uma oportunidade enorme. Vocês viram que são temas muito transversais e interdisciplinares, né, que eu acho que cobrem uma gama enorme das formações dos alunos que a gente tem aqui. Alguns nomes eu reconheço, outros não, mas imaginando que são das áreas de engenharia e economia, certamente terão tópicos não só atuais, como extremamente relevantes aí no contexto global, tá bom? Então, obrigado, Zé Raimundo, aí, e pode finalizar aí da parte com o pessoal.
Okay.
Obrigado.
Okay, obrigado, Charles. Just a little bit in English. Guys, we do have, actually, you can send you, just to let you know some statistics of the audience, we have people from engineering, from economics, from mathematics, from all over the spectrum of science. That's what's really nice, because, I mean, the way we frame your program here in Brazil, I hope, I mean, honest, it's the way you guys in Italy would like to see it. So, I mean, it's like a very specific and very, very interesting type of interdisciplinarity with a flavor of economics and decision science. So that's why I pass on this information. So the feedback was very positive. We have, of course, much more people from economics and management, but a lot of engineers here, mathematicians, I mean, statisticians, you know, computer science guys. So yeah, the impact, I think it was very nice, and it will last after today. So I'm pretty sure, okay? Então, pessoal, muito obrigado. Terminamos no tempo certo aí. Vamos ao almoço e obrigado aos italianos aí. Thanks a lot, guys, from Italy. It was such a pleasure for us. And hopefully, João, você quer falar alguma coisa, João César? Um minuto aí, em português?
Não, acho que está tudo bem. Muito obrigado aí também por todos. Excelente apresentação. As questões de base estão postas. Está tudo bem, tranquilo. Muito obrigado aos colegas italianos pela oportunidade de estarmos aqui reunidos, esperando que possamos nos integrar cada vez mais. Muito obrigado.
Ok, guys. Tchau, tchau. Até logo. See you guys. Bye-bye.
See you soon. See you soon.
Bye-bye. Thank you a lot.
Thank you, everyone. Nice to meet you all.